What's up, guys? Scott Kumler here. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the 5 biggest mistakes that real estate agents make when doing open houses. I built up my business doing open houses, and I see agents struggling all the time, saying the open houses are not working for them. And normally that's because they're making one of these 5 mistakes that I'll take you through in this video. With that being said, if you're struggling with this and would like my direct help and support for free, click the link in the description and let's chat about taking your business to the next level. All right, guys. So the number one mistake that agents make when doing open houses is not putting out enough signs. A lot of times when I'm seeing agents doing open houses, they might put out like 1, 2, 4 or 5 signs for an open house, but really that is not enough. When I first started in real estate, I put out about 12 signs myself, and I had a few people come through. My open houses were decent, but once I got over 20 open house signs, that's when my business really started taking off. And then when I started putting out 30 to 50 signs, I was getting a lot of people through every single open house. Typically, about 80% of people come through via your signage. And so the amount of open house signs you put out is extremely important. And then on top of that, what you'll start to notice is because of all the signs you're putting out, the neighbors will start to take notice as well too. And then they'll come in, they'll just ask you to list their house because they see all the marketing that you're putting into the open house that you're holding open. And typically, sellers want that exact same type of marketing when it comes to selling their home. So I've had many people in my career where they'll come into an open house and they're like, I don't want you I don't want to see this house at all. I just want you to help me sell my home. And, I've done listing presentations on the spot from someone coming in just because of all the signs we put out, and they saw all the effort we're putting into it. And they wanted to come in and just meet me and ask me to list their home for them, And so you'll start to notice that you'll get a lot of neighbors that will come in as well too, just from putting out a lot of open house signs. And typically your foot traffic will be a lot higher too. And so ideally 20 plus is kind of like the main goal for open house signage. But that's typically one of the biggest mistakes I see agents make when doing open houses. They just don't have enough open house signage. The number 2 biggest mistake that agents make when doing open houses is not posting on social media. And I don't mean like going to, marketing for the open house, putting flyers, stuff like that. But I'm talking about just letting your friends and family know what you're doing. The number one rule to being a successful real estate agent is marketing and branding yourself. And if you're going out there and working anyways, and you're doing a bunch of work with like whether it's open houses, showings, buyer consults, make sure you're letting people know that you're out there hustling and doing that work. Typically your friends and family are going to want to work with you if they know that you're actually out there hustling and doing things. And when they don't see anything on social media, they typically assume that you're not busy or you're not working. And so if you're going out there putting the effort in anyways, especially putting out a bunch of signs for your open houses, make sure that you're also posting on social media. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can post a selfie of yourself in front of the home saying, hey, come check it out today. I'll be here from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Glendale. Or take a picture of all the signage you put up. That's pretty exciting as well too. Take a video tour of the home. Video tours are extremely impactful. So the number 3 mistake I see agents make is not dialing in their touring process. A lot of times I'll sit back and I watch a lead come into an open house and I'll see an agent in there. The agent will give them a flyer and then the lead just kind of walks around and the agent doesn't say anything to them. They don't say hello. They might say hello, but they don't typically ask them questions or anything like that. So it's important to have your touring process dialed in. That's when you're building that connection with that lead. So ask them questions about their life. What's making you look in the area? Do you currently have a family? What do you like about this location? Do you currently rent or do you currently own a home? Are you thinking about selling? Why are you trying to do that? And so it's important, because that touring process is when you're starting to get feedback, so you can find out, is this someone that you could potentially help? Or is it someone that, maybe they don't need your help, or maybe they're not currently looking at buying or selling a home. And so typically it's important to make sure you're asking the right questions during the touring process, because that's when you're building a relationship. And then that's also when you can kind of like start to figure out, okay, what type of lead is this? Is this a hot lead, cold lead? What's their situation? And then you kind of know from that conversation how you can go ahead and lead the process after that. The number 4 biggest mistake I see agents make is not getting a lead's contact information. A lot of times they don't have a setup. So whenever a buyer or seller or a lead comes into the open house, typically they might give them a flyer, but they don't have a process dialed in order to get their contact information. Personally, me, I've always done surveys. I have a survey form. Ask for their name, phone number, and then they can kind of take it through the home as they're touring the home. I've seen some people have sign-in sheets before, but whatever it is, you want to make sure that you have a good process to get their contact information, so that way when you do follow up with them afterwards, you already have their correct information. And then also don't be afraid to verify the information. A lot of times buyers or sellers put down wrong information, or they got very bad handwriting. So it's important to make sure that you verify the contact information. So let's say, for example, you're like, hey, I can go ahead and send you some homes that might meet your criteria as well too. Hey, I just wanted to verify, is this the correct email address for you? Oh yeah, okay, this is, oh no, this number was incorrect. Okay, so let me go ahead and adjust that real quick. Boom, now you got the correct email address. Okay, just in case I have any questions, just want to verify this is the correct phone number that this is your correct phone number. Verify that as well too. And then that way, when you are following up with them, right, you have the right information. But too many times I see agents that will, maybe they think they got the information, and then when they go ahead and look at it, they realize the handwriting is very messy, or they can't really read what the buyer or seller put. And so it's very important to make sure that you have a process dialed in for them to sign in, but then also make sure that you have the correct information as well too, by reading it back. And the fifth biggest mistake that I see agents make, which is probably one of the mistakes I see most common when it comes to open houses, is not asking for the appointment. Typically, if you determine as a lead's coming through and they're walking through your home, if you determine they're a high quality lead, it's important and imperative that you also ask for the appointment at the open house, and you want to sell the value of the appointment. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Typically, my way is I say, hey, usually the next best step is for us to schedule a time for us to sit down, go through the home buying process, discuss areas you're at risk and areas of financial concern and stuff like that. And that way, you have all the information necessary to make the best decision for yourself and your family. So, is there some time this week that might work for you for us to sit down, go through the home buying process, and kind of discuss all this information, right? And then you meet them at a Starbucks. You can meet them at their house. If you have an office, you can meet at the office. But the number one mistake that I see agents make is they don't ask for the appointment right at the home. Personally, I wasn't a huge fan of follow-up. I typically knew that if a lead left the open house without me getting that appointment, the likelihood of me converting them was a lot lower. And so typically, if I felt like it was a quality lead that was going to be looking at buying or selling a house, I had a good conversation with them. We felt like we had a connection. I always wanted to make sure that I asked for that extra appointment as well too, that follow-up appointment, right, for a buyer consultation, or you can also do it just a tour of the properties. It doesn't really matter which one it is. 82% of buyers are using the first real estate agent they meet. So it's very important that if you find a lead that you feel like is a high-quality lead, that you go ahead and schedule an appointment with them right at the open house. Don't wait for the follow-up. Don't say, oh, I'll do it later, right? Because what happens if you say, I'll do it later, you don't do it at all, or typically the conversion ratio goes down, right? Speed to lead is extremely important. And so you want to make sure that you're asking for the appointment right at the open house for that follow-up appointment. So again, that's my 5 biggest mistakes that real estate agents make when doing open houses. If you do ever feel like you want any additional help, or you're looking at potential partnership opportunities, make sure to call or text me at 623-387-2688, or you can go ahead and schedule a Zoom meeting with me with my calendar link below. Hope you all have an amazing day.